The reason for being here today is today's a fulcrum day.
This guy's always so funny to listen to. He always strikes me as a person who doesn't believe anything that he's saying. And he's at a moral crisis to get it out, you know? He's like at such a contradiction within him. It's like his body is rejecting the very words as it's coming out of his mouth.
The things we've got to overcome: tariff, non-tariff trade barriers, currency manipulation, and subsidization of labor.
He's got such a froggy little voice. He should try to like project in the mirror so he can like really find his real true voice, because right now he's just trying to eke his way through the interviews.
There's a big menu there.
There's been an early focus on Latin America writ large.
I'm really nervous, can you tell?
From the Trump administration in the first 100 days. Is Latin America policy also, in a sense, China policy for this administration?
Well, I think that might be a good description, because what we are trying to keep from happening is what has happened on the African continent, where China has signed a number...
Yeah, let's talk about what's happened on the African continent, please. I would love for a U.S. statesman to accurately depict what has happened on the African continent for the past 400 years. Of course, when they talk about the African continent, it's going to be what China has done to the African continent, which is to say China has helped rebuild from the imperialism of Western Europe and the United States, which has completely just gutted the African continent. But let's hear what Scott Bessent has to say about the African continent, where China has signed what? It's going to be the Belt. I bet it's going to be about the Belt and Road Initiative and how it's imperialist in nature. I'm just going to go ahead and predict that this is one of those moments where every accusation is an admission when talking to a federal agent, least of all the U.S. Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent.
Number of these kind of rapacious deals marked as aid, where they are really, they've taken mineral rights, huge amounts of debt, onto these countries' balance sheets.
Is the U.S. Treasury Secretary literally accusing another country of trapping the African continent into debt? I mean, come on. That's exactly what the United States has done since after World War II. Debt trapped all of these countries with structural adjustment programs after we've come in and excavated all the resources through intervention, nefarious and otherwise. It's basically exactly. That is a great point. We're literally doing that in Ukraine right now. We have a deal with Ukraine about taking their mineral rights, taking their minerals out of their country, and we will continue to supply them with weapons, or we'll broker an end to the war. That's insane, right? Of course. What did I not call it? It's another example of a State Department official accusing another country of that which he and his constituents are guilty. What I said was even better? Well, thank you. And then, you know what's crazy about this is that I can't distinguish this talking point uttered by the Treasury Secretary of the United States and some leftists that call themselves communists. Like, there are communists out there that say the same thing about China that this chode is saying.
It's undisclosed to any of the other international organizations. They've got tolling arrangements, so they're guaranteeing that future generations are going to be poor and without resources. And
wow, really? They're guaranteeing that future generations are going to be poorer and without resources. I mean, you can't make this shit up. I mean, where do you begin? The United States is the greatest abuser of let's just say the entire world. We can certainly say the global south in every hemisphere of the earth. Okay, go to Southeast Asia, go to Africa, go to Eastern Europe, go to the Middle East, Latin America. We've made every territory that we've intervened poorer and without resources. What he calls the African continent, okay? Places like Congo and Uganda and Nigeria and Sudan. I mean, it's insane, dude. I mean, Clinton bombed a medical facility in Sudan and killed 40,000 people. Can you find an analog in the Chinese historical record? When have they ever been? Just the sanctions that we've put on Sudan alone are like, some of the worst criminal offenses in international law. We've sanctioned all of these countries. We forced them into slave labor. We forced their indigenous population of working, I wouldn't even say working age, but we forced them into as child slaves to mine our cobalt and our lithium that we need for our high-tech economy. It's really fitting. I'm just trying to put a fine point on this because I just read how Europe underdeveloped Africa. Literally the whole book was about how Western Europe and the United States to some extent later on did just that, made the African continent poorer and without resources. And much worse. I mean, you cannot overstate what Western Europe and the United States have done to the African continent over the past 400 years. And this chode wants to get an interview and tell us that it's China that is giving these countries in Africa a bad deal. I mean, that's basically what he's outlining is imperialism. Just as I had said, like, he's saying that China ensnares these countries with these loans and they are debt trapped. There's all these like tying arrangements where you have to, now have the rights to your resources, your raw materials, as he said, the mineral rights, or, they have to use the money for the Chinese war economy, let's say. It has to feed back into Chinese corporations or something like that, which is not at all what the Belt and Road Initiative is doing. In fact, it's doing the exact opposite, which is why we say that Scott Bessent is lying through his teeth right now. He's actually explaining in vivid detail the practices and policies of the United States and its financial institutions, which it controls, chiefly the IMF and the World Bank, are responsible for doing the bidding of the United States, and they administer the thing that he's saying China does, which is structural adjustment programs that are imperialist by nature, that seek to, what does it mean to be imperialist, It's to use capital to further steal or control the resources, land, and the labor of a country that you're, interfacing with economically. I'm quoting Walter Rodney here. Imperialism is purely an economic phenomenon, meaning that it's done for economic reasons.
And we don't want that to happen.
So we don't want that to happen. So what is he saying? We care. We care about the African continent. We care about our fellow Africans. We don't want that to happen. We're acting out of altruistic tendencies. This is because we believe in freedom and democracy. I'm a U.S. statesman, of course. I say these things. Do you really believe that the United States government doesn't want the African countries to interface to do deals with China because they're looking out for Africans' best interests? I mean, come on.
Any more than it already has in Latin America.
China has.
And then he mentions Latin America, like we didn't just pillage that entire continent as well. It's another continent we've done that to.
And we don't want that to happen any more than it already has in Latin America.
Any more than it already... Okay, so now I understand. He's saying we don't want that to happen any more than it already has in Latin America, which is what he's done, what the United States has done in Latin America. Again, going historically back to, we could go back to the Monroe Doctrine in 1823 when we told the rest of the world that Latin America, South America, Central America belongs to the United States, and we will do with it what we want, and no other colonizing power has the right to Latin America. We have that right, and we've done unspeakable atrocities to the entire continent of Latin America, all the way right up to this very day. I mean, how many times have we invaded Haiti? How many times have we invaded Cuba? We've invaded Guatemala, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Brazil, Chile. The list goes on. I can't even tell you the entire history of all the bad stuff we've done. You can look up Operation Condor to begin with. That's a more recent development, and that's just within the past, 60, 70 years or so. But it goes back centuries what we've done to Latin America, precisely making them poorer and without resources. Literally, Chiquita Banana and the United Fruit Company or whatever, they hired the U.S. military to invade Guatemala to steal the land back from Guatemalan farmers, where you had the Guatemalan government nationalizing their agricultural land. And so that was not a United Fruit Company could not, that was not to be tolerated. So we invaded Guatemala in 1954. The list goes on and on and on and on, and it's just so hilarious that he wants to bring up what has already happened in Latin America, as if his country isn't the one that is guilty of the very things that he's decrying, that he's crying wolf about. Feigning moral outrage, maybe you could say, is,